When you hear that word health, what's the first thing that pops into your head? For a lot of us, it's probably stuff like diet, exercise, maybe trying not to get sick during flu season. But honestly, that's kind of like saying a car is just its engine. We're totally missing the other parts that make the whole ride smooth and worthwhile. So let's dive in and rethink what being truly healthy actually looks like.
So let's just pause here for a second. Seriously, ask yourself, what does being healthy really mean to you, personally? Is it just about a number on the scale, being able to run a mile, or is there something more to it? We're about to explore a whole new way of looking at this that might just change your answer.
Okay, so on one side you have the standard, old-school view, health is basically just not being sick. If you don't have a fever and nothing's broken, you get a check mark. You're healthy. But look at the other side. Here's a much bigger, more powerful idea, health as complete well-being. This isn't just about what's wrong. It's about actively feeling good and thriving.
All right, first things first. We got to start with the foundation, the one we all know pretty well, our physical health. Think of this as your body's hardware, right? It's the core operating system that runs everything.
And what does that mean, really? Well, it's all about the state of your body and how well it can do its job. We're talking about everything from your heart pumping blood to your lungs taking in air, your muscles moving. It's all about keeping the machine running as smoothly as possible.
So, how do we keep this physical hardware in good shape? It really boils down to 4 key things. First, nutrition and diet. That's the fuel for the machine. Then there's regular exercise, which keeps everything strong and running efficiently. Of course, adequate sleep is huge. That's when the body does all its repairs. And finally, preventive care, things like checkups. That's how we spot trouble before it becomes a real breakdown.
But amazing hardware is pretty useless without good software to run it. And that brings us to the second crucial dimension, mental health. This is so much more than just feeling happy. It's the entire landscape of your emotional and psychological world.
And this definition really gets to the heart of it. It's our emotional, psychological, and our cognitive well-being. Think about that. It literally affects everything, how we think, how we feel, and how we act in pretty much any situation.
And when you look at what goes into it, it's all incredibly practical stuff. Stress management isn't about getting rid of stress, because let's be real, that's impossible. It's about learning how to handle it. Emotional regulation is about understanding our feelings, not just bottling them up. Having a sense of purpose, that's what gets us out of bed in the morning. And cognitive sharpness is all about keeping your brain active and engaged.
Okay, and now for our third, and honestly the most frequently forgotten dimension of our health, social health. It's so easy to overlook, but we are social animals. Our connections with other people are absolutely vital to our overall well-being.
The key words to focus on here are meaningful and healthy. This has nothing to do with how many followers you have online. It's all about the quality of your connections. It's about having people you can rely on, communicating well, and feeling like you're part of something.
So what does that look like day to day? Well, having supportive networks means you know who to call when you're having a bad day. That sense of belonging is about feeling seen and valued for who you are. Effective communication is the tool that builds and strengthens all those bonds. And getting involved in your community, that connects you to something bigger than just yourself.
Okay, so we've got our 3 big pieces, physical, mental, and social. But the real aha moment comes when we stop looking at them as separate boxes to check and start seeing how they all work together as one big integrated system. This is where it all comes together. And this right here is the absolute core of it all. These dimensions are not in their own little lanes. They are deeply, deeply interconnected. What happens in one area sends massive ripple effects through the others. You simply cannot be at your physical best if your mental or social health is struggling, and the same is true the other way around.
Let's make this super real with an example we've all felt. Take one night of poor sleep. What happens? Physically, it's obvious, right? You're tired, you feel run down, maybe your immune system takes a hit. Mentally, oh yeah, you're irritable, you can't focus, and then what's the social fallout? You're too drained and grumpy to hang out with anyone. See, one little physical problem just threw your entire system out of whack.
A really great way to picture this is to think of your well-being like a 3-legged stool. One leg is your physical health, one is your mental health, and the third is your social health. Now, what happens if one of those legs gets shorter or weaker? Say you neglect your friendships. The whole stool gets wobbly and unstable, right? It just can't support you properly.
So, let's pull all this together. What's the bottom line? First, and most importantly, health is way more than just not being sick. Second, you've got to think in 3 dimensions: physical, mental, and social. Third, never forget that they are all connected and constantly talking to each other. And that means, finally, that true, lasting well-being is all about actively taking care of all 3.
And that brings me to my last question for you. I really want you to think about this as you go about your day. When you picture that 3-legged stool of your own well-being, which leg might need a little attention? Which dimension of your health could use a bit more of your focus right now? Because answering that question could be the first step to feeling more balanced, stable, and truly well.